Hello, hello. Welcome to day 953 of Connecting the Thoughts. Quote for today is understand the fine line between expectation and exploitation. What does that mean? So when I say understand between what is expectation? What is truly, hi Cindy. So what is truly the difference between expectation and exploitation? So I feel sometimes in relationships we begin to exploit others with our expectations. We begin to emotionally lay so much of expectations on people that they begin to feel exploited and might not even realize that. And that's when relationships either tend to go sour or they tend to begin to have a place of friction, and people want to, they just feel like, okay, this is not how I want to do this. So let me know what you think when I say exploitation. Have you ever experienced exploitation in a relationship? And it doesn't have to be just relationships at home. It could even be relationships at work, and that often happens, right? When you feel like everybody at work is expecting a certain thing from only you, or it's the expected norm that you would go out of your way to do something at work, on a project, on a team, and then it just becomes a default setting where you are constantly putting in more energy, more effort, uh, and just not feeling like you are being replenished enough. Let me know if this is resonating with you, if you've ever been there, or if you think you've ever done this to somebody. Let's be honest here. We tend to work on both sides of the spectrum. So if you've ever done that to someone, or if you've been on that side where you felt like the expectations in a relationship were beginning to feel like you were being exploited, how would you like to address that? It's simple. The important thing to do is to come to a place of awareness as you assign an expectation to someone. Take a look before you even do that. Take a step back and just understand, is this really something that I have to make the other person do? Or can I delegate it to somebody else? Or can I delegate to somebody else, or do it myself for that matter? Noah says, I have experienced it, exploitation at work, and it often happens. Exploitation happens when there are way too many expectations of a person. And that's why I say understand the fine line between expectation and exploitation. It seems like you can have way too many expectations of a person, and some of us think it's normal to do that in certain relationships. But even there could be a fine line where people feel like you're taking them for granted, that you are exploiting them. So be mindful of that. Be respectful of the relationship that you have with somebody. Put yourself in that other person's shoes, and for a moment, if you for a moment understand, is this how I would like to be treated? The way you are being treated, or the way you are treating somebody else, they're constantly putting extra burden, extra expectations on somebody. If you're beginning to sense beginning to sense friction, if you're beginning to sense some kind of resentment in the relationship, take a step back and understand for yourself, are you unintentionally, very often it happens unintentionally, when it's a close relationship, we're in each other's space so much that we begin to forget that each one of us has a boundary too. As no matter how close the relationship is, each one of us has a personal space, and sometimes we forget that, and we walk over it, and that's when the other person feels like, you're too much in my space, or I'm being exploited, or I'm being taken for granted. So the best thing to do is just take a step back, quite literally take a step back, and think of how you are treating the other person. What are the expectations that you are putting upon the other person? Is this fair? What could be done? It's as simple as that. Just having an audit of your expectations from someone else and being honest about it. Are you expecting too much? Or are you exploiting the other person? So be balanced in your expectations with the other person. Always take a moment to put yourself in the other person's shoes and assess for yourself, what is it that you are doing, how is it that they might be feeling, and if you don't really understand it fully, ask. Ask. It's as simple as that. Ask the other person, is this too much for you to handle? Is there something I can do to support you? Would you like for me to pass this work on to somebody else or pass this responsibility to somebody else? Because sometimes people value the relationship so much they do not, although they might feel like they're being taken for granted, they might not say it, but it would be said in their behavior. It would be said in the way they are with you. Hello, hello, Gopalan. So these are my thoughts. I'd love to hear from you. How do you deal when people lay their expectations on you over and over and over until you begin to feel like overwhelmed and taken for granted, exploited even? Have you understood where that fine line is between expectation and exploitation? Would you like to explore that? And how would that serve you? So do think about these questions and tag a friend, share the message, because again, these are things that we do by default. We don't really give it much thought, but it really helps in relationships when you think about these little things. Cindy says, I set boundaries, it really helps. Yes, boundaries help, but sometimes we we learn it the hard way to set boundaries. And by the time we begin to set boundaries, the other person has already gone into a groove of behaving in a certain way with us. So that's what I said when I said, people will take it upon themselves and they might respect the relationship so much that they won't even tell you that they're feeling overwhelmed, but it begins to show in their behavior. Hence, setting boundaries is absolutely important. Thank you. Thank you, Cindy. It really helps. It absolutely does help to set boundaries. Better late than never. If you haven't set your boundaries yet, if you do not understand why you're beginning to feel a certain overwhelm in a relationship, take a step back and look at it differently. Take a step back and understand where you need to set your boundaries. Thank you, Cindy. And if this has been of value to you, please write in comments saying, I am observant. Just use the power of I am and be observant. Be observant of how you are behaving with someone. Be observant of how someone else is behaving with you. And then say what needs to be said in the right way. So until tomorrow, keep smiling, keep shining, stay safe, and thank you for connecting the thoughts with me. Thank you so, so much. I am observant in comments. Thank you, Gopal, and thank you, Cindy. If this has been of value to you, and if you haven't subscribed already, please do to the YouTube channel. And see you later. I am observant.